What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Rank is literally almost here for Crimson Blaze. As the recording and the upload tomorrow, rank is back. That being said, I do want to go over all of the decks that I think are going to be the best decks going in for the first couple days of rank if you want to hit Masterball really fast. We will go over every single deck in detail so you guys could be successful on the ladder. Let's talk about Silvally and Mega Altaria. This deck right here is a real powerhouse. Now, the combination of Silvally and Mega Altaria early on in the meta wasn't even thought of or, tested properly. But, you add Silvally and Chingling in the same deck, they do kind of like crazy wonders. One thing that Silvally is amazing, right? You have to use supporter cards, right, in order to get the consistent 100 damage. That is really good in this metagame and aggressive, and not to mention really consistent. That being said, one of the cards that's super high in the metagame right now is Chingling. Chingling is in almost every single deck. It's really played like super highly in everybody's deck. The decks that we're gonna go over, where you're probably gonna see a common theme of Chingling being there. And if your opponent starts off with a Chingling, they only shut down Pokeball, which that's not really much a problem, right? You're running Licias to get over that. Licia could search you Chinglings and Swablu. Altaria just works really well in this deck because you could have the field full, build type no, to swing into, little threats, whether, it be Chingling or any annoying starters, maybe a Furfrou. But landing that 40 on any of the baby Pokemon that are being let out is pretty strong in the early game. And just overall, this deck is strong. You're playing Sabrina, you're playing Cyrus, Gladians for consistency, and you're playing Mars for hand disruption. Sing Swablu is really strong. I know Find a Friend came out, but I wouldn't recommend playing 1-in-1. It's either you run all out on Sing or you run both of the Find a Friends. But overall, this deck right here is one of the GOATs, and this deck went 10-0, just overall plays into the metagame really well. This deck has become super popular near the end of Mega Rising and in the beginning of Crimson Blaze. This deck right here was a powerhouse, attacking the meta left and right and just topping and winning tournaments. Like, this deck right here is really strong because you could utilize Greninja really well, use Cyrus to Cyrus out any opponent's Mega Pokemon or main setup Pokemon, anything that they're trying to invest their energy to. You could take advantage of that with Greninja. Not only that, you could definitely play Chingling or Jirachi, right? Double Chingling is another option, but having Jirachi to also hit across the field is really good because you do have access to double Cyrus, and this is more of an aggressive build and one of the more successful ones in the tournament scene. And just overall, I think you would have a good time running into the ladder with this deck. Copycat is insane. Rare Candy is also one card you have to be on the lookout for. And then Pokeball and Red Card, you already know the deals with those. Hand disruption is going to be super major in the ladder because you do not know what type of decks you guys are going to be facing. So that's one thing I do want to bring up. Let's talk about Furfrou and Mega Altaria. This deck right here actually won a tournament and it's super consistent. The introduction of Furfrou into the metagame is insane because if anybody is leading Chingling, right, you just drop Furfrou and they have to they can't hit you. It does 10 damage, and its ability, you take a -20, right? So it's not doing anything, it's just turning off your item cards. That being said, you could revenge and get the knockout with the tackle doing 30. Not only that, it could definitely live so many other troublesome Pokemon, like Oricorio has trouble taking it out. And, you know, by the time it's ready to knock it out, you do have Furfrou ready to swing in and win. Elekid is there to zap, you know, the back row Pokemon and just make them, you know, be Cyrusable and everything like that. Tyrogue is in there for early damage, and not only the early damage, you have the Tyrogue in there to deal with the Oricorio. And you know, let's face it, we might be seeing a lot of the Yellow Bird on the ladder on rank, so that's something, you know, you have to prepare for, because if your deck doesn't really have an out to Oricorio, you're just asking for a game loss every time you play against Oricorio. So that being said, that's why I recommend, you know, at least having, you know, some outs here. We are playing the, you know, the Mega Altaria and Swablues. At least you can actually search, you know, the baby Pokemon and the Swablu. So this deck over here is just overall super strong. Serena for the consistency to get the Mega Altaria. You got Pokeballs, Repels, Red Card, and Rocky Helmet. Repel definitely is a sleeper card, but could definitely come in handy, especially in rank. You know, we're coming in to the last Altaria deck, and basically, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? This deck is just proved itself to be really strong and consistent, and you're playing the Altaria that does do the wave, which is really strong, and depends on your opponent having a bench, which most likely they will. And you know, you can knock out Oricorios with that, have the Jirachi to like also knock out Oricorios or force Cyrus plays. Just overall, Indeedee being able to heal, and you could actually utilize that as an attacker. Most people kind of forget that, but Indeedee hits hard whenever you get Indeedee ready to swing, like just in case if, you know, Mega Altaria isn't, you know, critical one-shot condition, you know, like you just retreat into it, and then you could also, you know, put in Indeedee as a solid attacker. Then you have, you know, Mars, one Cyrus, copycat for consistency, Sabrina, Pokeballs, Red Card. This is more of an aggressive like hand rip, because we are kind of in a rare candy meta where Blaziken, Charizard, Decidueye, you know, are decks that exist, and you have to respect it, because when they pop off, and they could get win streaks like crazy. Rocky Helmet's there to deal with Oricorio as well, or to put any of the other opposing Mega Pokemon into lethal range. So that's another thing that I would recommend to use. Let's talk about Mega Lopunny and Lucario. This deck overall has been, you know, really good, made a great impact in the beginning of the format and still until now. Just fighting and really needing Mega Lopunny EX, and him on top is a great partner, because not only that, you're attacking the bench and you could utilize easy plays with Cyrus, and you know, overall it has 80 HP, it's hard to deal with, and you could just build your back row, and it only takes 1 energy to swing, so it's kind of a no-brainer to kind of use this card. And you know, May is there for consistency, Copycat is there for consistency as well, you know, XP to get rid of those heavy cost retreats, or if you don't want to retreat with an energy from Mega Lopunny, you could definitely use that for that purpose. Rocky Helmet's there, so you could, you know, add an additional 20 damage, because you could stack Lucario's damage on top of that too. Red Card, again, all of these decks are going to be in rank. You need like hand disruption, because you have to be ready for no matter what deck you come across. The next deck I want to talk about has not been seeing a lot of popularity, but I have been seeing a lot of tournament results, you know, lately in January, and this deck has been performing really well still. You know, it's Dark Zone, and you know, we're in the point of the format where you could kind of slap the Magnezone engine anywhere and it will work pretty well. This is the one of the decks that's pretty much a little bit easy to misplay if you don't play correctly or manage your energy correctly. Darkrai is here doing 20 pings while you have Magnezone in the front attacking, or you have Chingling attacking, or Tyrogue. It doesn't matter. You know, Magnezone itself takes care of Oricorio. The whole point of the deck, you want to send out Mega Absol absolutely last in order to attack, or Darkrai EX. It doesn't matter which one. You want to utilize your Magnezones as fast as possible, but most likely the realistic thing is Chingling is going to get knocked out, or Tyrogue, by the time you have your Magnezone ready to swing and attack, and then your opponent has to deal with 150 HP while, you know, taking 90 damage from the zone and taking an additional 20 from Darkrai in the back. So this is why you want to play 1-in-1 of the EX Pokemon in this deck. And you got Clement to help you with the consistency of Magneton, Copycat for consistency. Lisia's kind of broken. You could search Magnemites with that if you don't already have them in hand. You got your Pokeballs. Red card, again, hand disruption is going to be a very common theme. Sabrina, Cyrus, just overall Magnezone is going to be a super popular Pokemon on the ladder as well. Next up, we have another dark variant here, but this is going to be a Mega Absol and Greninja. This deck is super consistent and strong. Just Chingling overall, maximizing on that so you can turn off your opponent's idle cards or rare candy. Again, Chingling just shuts down rare candy on the Suicune-Gyarados and anything that runs, we call it Greninja. And just overall, solid pick here, and it's very consistent, grinds your opponent down, and your main attackers are Mega Absol EX and a Darkrai, but you always want to lead with the Chingling and then hopefully evolve as fast as possible with your Greninjas. You play the Rocky Helmet too, because if your opponent is playing like an opposing Chingling and they attack with their Chingling, you know, you put them in a situation where they will have 10 HP, right? So that's another thing to, you know, look at when it comes to a Rocky Helmet. You have X-Speed, Red Card, Copycat, Cyrus, you know, researches, all that. It's very consistent, and, you know, just overall stacking energy with Darkrai EX and 20 pings from Greninja. Just one of the best combos since anything, you know. I want to talk about Magnezone and Oricorio. This deck right here is going to be a very popular deck, especially if you are a very anti-meta type of person, right? If you don't like dealing with other opponents' EX Pokemon, you are definitely going to be playing this deck. Just, this is boosting Magnezone's, you know, consistency, having the double Copycat, the Clement, just Pokeballs, everything in order to get into the Magnemite. Most likely you're gonna have a Magnemite ready to go, and the fact that this is an electric deck and you could attack for 30 in the beginning with Magnemite, you could deal with Chinglings, you could deal with Swablues being let out. You know, that's a free point if your opponent is forced to play a Swablu. And just overall really strong, consistent, and you could play off Oricorio while you build up the Magnezone. And then, you know, you're playing cards like Guzma, because item cards are not, you know, are just all rampant and people are just throwing it everywhere. Guzma is going to be one of those cards to take those item cards away and put you in a, you know, good advantage position. You have Pokemon Center Lady, Cyrus, double Pokeball, red card for hand disruption, and you have Giant Cape. Overall, a very solid pick. Let's talk about Entei-Charizard Y. Mega Charizard Y is insane with its 250 damage. Not like Entei just brings this deck so much consistency, right? And Charmeleon with the crazy ramp ability, right? There'll be positions where you might just have to, you know, fight with Entei EX, and you could get away with that too. while you're building Mega Charizard Y. It has 140 HP, it's putting down 60 damage, could go up to 120 while you're drawing a lot of cards. Now, the twist about this deck, you could play Indeedee EX. Indeedee EX is really strong because when Mega Charizard does take damage, you could definitely heal Charizard Y, and not only that, you could just heal Entei, and it's just overall one of those cards that you could kind of splash in almost every deck, and Indeedee's there just to back you up. Now you have May for consistency. Double May, it's like insane. Like, people are not playing May, but overall in this deck just works really well, because you know, what if you're playing against Oricorio or something like that? You do have access to the regular Charizard, which does 150 damage. That's also a really good card to have access to in demand, on demand, and you want to find your Charmeleons as fast as possible. So that's another thing, another reason why I'd say playing the May is really good. You definitely want to max out on Flame Patch. You got your Hand Disruption for Mars, you got Repel for Oricorio, Giant Scape, again, you do need more HP in this deck, Pokeballs, and just overall, you know, once you have Charizard, you know, out there attacking, you can't just stop it. It's just the most consistent thing in the world. Next up, let's talk about Mega Blaziken. So Mega Blaziken Furfrou has become super popular. They work well together. Furfrou takes care of the Chingling, so Mega Blaziken could evolve with rare candies. That being said, you could play Chingling and Furfrou here and take out the Combustion, but I feel like in this scenario too, having the Combustion is just going to give you more answers to Oricorio other than, you know, Heatmore and Furfrou and the Rocky Helmet. It's always good to have, but just overall, very consistent deck when it does pop off, like with May, Copycat. I'd say, you know, Mega Blaziken is one of those decks you either lose really fast or you win really fast, and you know, the whole objective of rank is you want to get in as many games as possible. In and out, in and out, in and out is the goal here, right? So you do have, you know, Lily to heal your Mega Blaziken. You know, overall doing 140 damage with a burn, and you know, possibly staying burn is really good. And you have Rocky Helmet, red card for Hand Disruption, Pokeballs, and one Flame Patch. This deck does not need double Flame Patch, arguably, and you know, just overall really strong. Let's talk about Decidueye EX. This deck is amazing. Takes games quick if you can't stop it. Yes, Chingling will destroy this deck, but at the same time, this deck plays really well into Suicune-Gyarados. And that being said, let's just be real, right? Suicune is going to be the most popular deck on the ladder. Overall, has the strongest results, and what deck could defeat that deck is Decidueye EX. Has the best matchup, snipe out all the Froakies, attack the Suicunes that retreat. Just overall, your opponent's bench is not safe whatsoever, and this deck actually won one of my tournaments, and overall it's really strong, and I'd recommend you guys run Decidueye EX. Overall, best pick, best deck. You play one Quick Grow Extract to get into one of your Decidueyes or into Dartrix. Like, Quick Grow is basically another Dartrix, but better because you could use it on Dartrix if you don't have the correct Decidueye in hand. And just overall, this plays double Lily, one Erica, you want 3 healing, and then double Copycat. Overall, for consistency, that's what you want to do in this deck, maximize consistency. And you only play one Pokeball because Rowlet's guaranteed to be on the bench, so on the active spot. Let's talk about Venusaur, Mega Venusaur, right? Mega Venusaur is going to be one of those decks that really, you know, pop off on the ladder. I wouldn't say just like it's a great like tournament deck, but we could kind of see like on the ladder it could play really well into multiple decks. And you know, we've seen Venusaur's top 4, you know, top 16 here and there, and it looks like one of the most consistent builds is just a regular Venusaur build. But the only thing here, if you do run into Oricorio, you know, you're gonna get like destroyed. I mean, unless you get super lucky, or you know, with the poison and the sleep, and you do play cards like Repel and Sabrina to force out the win, so it's not completely over if you play your cards right too. Overall, this is one of the best performing Venusaur's decks in a tournament. I pulled this deck up, you know, because just overall it did play against multiple Oricorio decks and it did pop off well. So I just wanted to get a Mega Venusaur deck in here for all the Mega Venusaur fans, and just overall I believe in the deck. I feel like it will perform better on the ladder than it will perform on rank, I mean on tournaments. Let's get into suicune-Gyarados. This deck right here has been winning tournaments and topping tournaments, top 4, and overall one of the best decks here, right? Because you could utilize Gyarados to take care of Oricorios. Not only that, you deal a consistent 140 damage. The only reason I say consistent, because you play a lot of Pokemon in this build, right? You're always guaranteed to have so many Pokemon to throw away, to use with Gyarados. Use Suicune as a draw engine. You have Manaphy to, you know, charge up your bench. Pyukumuku is super strong. You know, doing 50 damage is insane when it gets knocked out, and you do 20 damage. I mean, not 50 damage, 30 damage, and then you do 20 damage with it. When I said 50, I meant like the attack, and then, you know, the 30 damage when it gets knocked out. All that damage stacks, and it's really good for Gyarados when it comes in dealing 140 damage. Not only that, you do have the Suicune in the back that, you know, could punish Altaria decks or any decks that have, you know, a full bench, because you could definitely turn Suicune into an attacker at any time. You do have Sabrina, Iridas, Copycat for consistency, Giant Cape to live certain numbers. Like anything else that does 140 damage, you put it on Gyarados and it could be at 150 and it'll be in a very good position too. And overall, the deck hits like a truck, super consistent. Would recommend giving this a shot. Let's talk about Hydreigon. One of the cracked ways I would say to play Hydreigon is, you know, the Furfrou variant. It's brand new and has been winning tournaments. Hydreigon, just overall one of the best decks in the meta, and like if you start with Hydreigon, you know, you're not gonna win that game. Like your opponent like cannot do anything to, like, you know, a turn 2 Hydreigon is just so devastating, and that's why it's worth playing. And not only that, just like even sending it out like, you know, mid game, it's dealing 130 damage, has great HP. Indeedee's there to make it live forever. Just like it's a crazy powerhouse. Furfrou's just out there, you know, to deal with like Chinglings or anything else that could be annoying. It is a 1 retreat cost, so it's really good for the metagame. You do play the 1 Mega Absol, so it comes out as your last attacker, dealing 80, taking away opponent's Cyruses, because let's be real, right now most people are playing 1 Cyrus, and once you fish for that and get it, you know, you could be guaranteed that your Mega Absol will not get Cyrused in. Then you have Indeedee for healing, of course, and then, you know, you play all your consistency cards like Copycat, Cyrus, Rocky Helmet, and then you play the Geo to hit 140 with Hydreigon. Geo is so goated in this build. I would recommend you guys run that. Big shocker, this is one of the best decks that's going to be run in the meta, because in the tournament scene it's seeing so much high play and it just wins, right? It's the best deck in the format, and you want to play the Frogadier version because the Frogadier, you know, kind of builds that bridge into Greninja without having to deal with the Chingling pings, right? And not only that, you don't have to wait on drawing rare candies. You know, you have another option to get into for Greninja, right? You are playing the 2-ping Greninja because that is still the best way to play it. You do play the 2 Cyrus, so you could, you know, start Cyrusing everything out. Greninja EX is just the most busted EX Pokemon version right now. Like the fact that you could swap in and out, you know, cures basically the sleep on anything, and you could retreat anything. Like you could send out a Froakie into the active, retreat it, put an energy, retreat it, and then, you know, wake up the Suicune while you're doing that, and then have the Suicune come out and attack again. Like it could dodge so many status elements. And overall, Greninja dealing 100 damage, not depending on the bench, you know, like Suicune could just turn into a draw engine where you don't have to really put all the energy on Suicune. Overall, really strong. Indeedee's there, so you could heal, replacing the Giratina. So this deck just overall one of the best picks, and I'd recommend you guys run this deck if you want to climb the ladder super fast. Let's just be real, it's one of the best decks. So of course you're gonna play Mars, because again, you want to play hand disruption, because if you don't have the hand disruption, you will definitely be in a disadvantageous position. But that being said, we're gonna end the video here. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what deck you guys are taking into this rank season.